So, okay. So what is marketing? So marketing refers to the activities or strategies undertaken to promote your NGO's work to your target audience. Now, usually marketing or activities are associated with for-profits, but it is extremely essential for nonprofits to be able to communicate their work in the right way to create more awareness, generate more support, and to be able to achieve the mission that they have to. What I'm going to take you through is simple 5 points in a way in which you can approach a marketing strategy. Now, usually, I'm sure everyone creates a marketing or a communication strategy, but sometimes we create very complicated strategies that are very difficult for us to implement when it comes to creating daily content for our work. So I'm going to look at 5 approaches. To start with is goals. Now, what are the goals that you want to achieve with your marketing? So you always have to ask this question, a question while you're doing marketing, is your communications and marketing goals aligned to the goals of your organization? We don't want to do any activity for marketing and communications that doesn't result in a very tangible outcome, right? So what you are doing through marketing and communications should be supporting one of your organizational goals. Now, for example, are you using marketing to be able to raise higher funds? Are you using marketing to be able to retain or attract talent and volunteers? Are you using marketing to be able to seek more collaborations and partnerships with other organizations? So clearly define what the goal of your marketing is and make sure that your goal is a SMART goal, that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Another second point that we have to look into is audience. Now, once we have our goal in mind, right, we need to look at which is the audience that we need to target to be able to achieve this goal. Now, for example, if your goal is to raise funds, right, for your organization, so your targeted audience would be HNI donors, would be CSR heads, would be foundations. If you are looking at if you're looking at really high skilled talent for your organization, then let's look at specifically, maybe you're targeting corporate, people working in the corporate sector, or graduates who've just finished college, or candidates that have just finished a fellowship in the social sector. So be really specific with your audience, because that's going to help you understand what are the platforms you need to put this content out to be really targeted and strategic about the way you're marketing. So the third point is, of course, the platform. Now, once you know your goal and you've identified your audience, right, you need to look at the platforms in which you can talk about your, where you can put your content out. Now, if you're looking for university students or you're looking for volunteers, right, then your platform should be very targeted. It should be probably some of the social media handles, so that's Instagram, or it could be Facebook groups. So there are specific Facebook college groups. So it could be that it could be LinkedIn. If you're looking for potential collaborations with other NGOs in the sector, then you could be again looking at LinkedIn as one of your platforms. You could be looking at WhatsApp, NGO WhatsApp groups, or Facebook NGO WhatsApp, Facebook NGO groups. So be really specific, because it's not about just what is the content that we create, right? It's about where we put it. And I think that saves us a lot of time and energy if we are using the right platforms to put our content on. So, and then once we have our platforms in place, we need to look at key messages, right? So what are we trying to say through our content? That's really very important. So you can't just put content out there expecting for people to make their own meaning or interpretation of what you're trying to say. So you have to be really, really specific and articulate that key message really, really well. Just to give you an example, I work for Atma. And if some of you know, Atma is a capacity building organization. So we are experts in building the capacity, organizational capacity of other organizations. So I'll give you an example of the kind of key message that I would use for my organization, which is Atma is a knowledge leader in the sector. I want to showcase Atma as an expert and a knowledge leader in the sector, in the area of capacity building. That is my key message. This is going to help me create the right kind of content to put it out there. So again, that leads me to my fifth point, which is about content, right? So because my key message here is Atma is a knowledge leader in the sector, I want to showcase Atma as an expert. So that means that I need to do a lot of thought leadership through my content. So what is the content that I will create for doing more thought leadership? I think it's really important to create content that the audience can learn something from, right? So ideally, I'll do some thought leadership to showcase Atma as an expert by saying 5 ways in which you can create a robust fundraising strategy, or five things to know to retain high quality talent, right? So I'm creating content in which I'm putting our learnings, the experience that we have, as knowledge pieces and insights for my audience. So because what happens with content is that people don't want to just know what your organization is doing. Your people want to be able to learn from your reflections, from your experiences, and every single content that you create should be insightful to your audience in some way or the other. So make sure that your content is compelling in terms of it's teaching, or the audience is learning something from it. So these are like 5 simple pointers to approach your communication strategy, which is goals, audience, platforms, key messages, and content. Great. Okay. I hope that's not been a lot, but moving forward, I'm going to here talk about the different modes of communication. Now, I think this is very common knowledge, but I think I prefer to take you a little bit through what are the different modes of communication that or marketing that every organization uses. So firstly, it's social media. Now, social media such as Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter have a wider reach. So if you want to be able to put your organizational updates or showcase the work that you've done, or put out stories about your end beneficiaries, I think this is a great way to have meaningful engagement and also conversations with your targeted audience, and it has a wider reach. The second mode is websites and blogs. So if someone is introduced to your organization, right, and they would like to understand the kind of work that you're doing in depth, it's really important to have an online presence such as a website, which will help someone understand what is the problem that your organization is trying to solve, what is the work that you're doing to solve this problem, what are the programs that you all are running. Do you guys have some case studies, some beneficiary stories, more impact data? So all the in-depth data that you would like to communicate with your audience, or any stakeholder would like to know, should be on the website to be able to see. The third one is email marketing. I think as time has passed, I have a little bit of a reluctance towards email marketing, because people receive so many emails each day that sometimes when you send newsletters or a long update of what your organization is doing, right, people don't really have the time to see it. But it's also a good way for people who are signed up and who are interested, signed up to your email list, and who are interested to know more about your work, right? It's good to be able to have more personalized conversations and to foster that relationship. So just to give you an example, if you have a set of donors, or if you have 1,000+ donors who have donated to your organization, and you would like to be able to continuously communicate with them about what you're doing, I think this is still the best platform to be able to do that. So they know that the organization that they're donating to, they're hearing from them time on time. So email marketing, I think, is great for that. Then comes content marketing. I think content marketing is creating really compelling content. I think there is so much you can do in this area, right? Is create videos, you can create infographics, you can have podcasts. This is a way to be able to share content in just different formats and amplified on different channels. So the different platforms that we've spoken about, different formats work for different platforms, right? To be able to recognize what format works for what platform, and to be able to create that kind of content. So for example, like Instagram reels are a new thing. A lot of imagery works better than just heavy content, right? So then can you create really compelling short video reels to be able to put you put content and attract audiences from that way. Another way is events and workshops. I think that's also a good mode of communication and marketing. It also helps you create more personalized one-to-one interactions with your stakeholders and your target audience, right? You're giving them a platform where you're doing a little bit of thought leadership, you're talking about your work, creating more awareness. And I think that is also a great opportunity for networking and building relationships, which also is one of a very important aspect of marketing. Another important aspect is collaborations and partnerships, right? Partnerships can help create more awareness. It can amplify your work to a larger audience, attract new supporters and followers, and enhance the effectiveness of your campaign. So for example, I'll give you a collaboration example of a collaboration that we had for ConnectFor. A couple of months ago, Atma was looking for fellow applications for a fellowship program that we had newly launched. And Atma collaborated with ConnectFor to be able to be an outreach partner as a collaboration. So we not only had access to our audience, but we also had access to ConnectFor's audience, because as a collaboration, they were reposting our post and sort of increasing the visibility of our fellowship program within their audiences. So creating really strategic collaborations and partnerships that in particular networks or with particular organizations that can increase the outreach of the campaign that you're running. Another way is traditional media. Of course, this is a little hard to crack with, PR, coming in, and it being a little more difficult to get through major media publications. But taking part in radio or press articles or interviews or featured stories will attract more public interest, a larger audience who's not just interested in the nonprofit sector, but just a larger public audience as a whole. Another great way to market your work, and I think Atma does that very much, is advocacy and public relations, right? I think what is very key to be able to talk about your programs is to talk a lot about what is the problem that you're trying to solve. And I think that is the biggest battle that, once it's won, is then you're hitting the right audiences. That if you can create compelling stories or compelling content that can help your audience understand what is the problem that you're trying to solve. Now, just to give you an example of Atma, because we are capacity builders in the nonprofit sector for NGOs, we have been advocating for the need of capacity building. So each year, we create a lot of compelling stories, leader stories, case studies. We create impact reports. This is not just to showcase our work, right? It is also a way of advocating for the need for capacity building. I think it's very important for us, for our audience, any stakeholder, whether it's your funder or the volunteers that you're targeting at. It's very important for them to understand that why is there a need for an organization like yours or programs like the ones that you all are creating. So these are the different modes of marketing and communications. Of course, you can use them more strategically. I wouldn't say that you need to do all of them, but I think you need to prioritize of like what is needed for your organization, what goals need to be achieved, and then choose those modes accordingly. Moving ahead, leveraging LinkedIn. I think this is another thing that's something that I have learned over my 4-year experience working at Atma, because I think email marketing and engaging our stakeholders through emails or being intrusive by sending WhatsApp, by doing WhatsApp marketing, by sending continuous WhatsApp broadcasts, has become a little bit redundant. So I think LinkedIn is a great platform to leverage for several reasons. And I'll take you through a few of the reasons why I think that every organization should put their focus on LinkedIn as one of their major platforms to be able to market their work. Now, to start with is creating your personal and brand identity. Now, I think LinkedIn is a great platform to be talking about your work because it is a very professional platform. It is very important that you can talk about your reflections of your work, your learning experiences, and leave a very strong impression and lasting impression with your audience, potential audience, about just the work that you're doing, what are the learnings, what are the reflections, and create a very strong brand identity, and just be really vocal on LinkedIn, that people can learn from your experiences and your insights from your work. The second is connecting with people, right? People connect to people more than they connect to organizations. I think what we've realized is that as an organization, if we put a lot of posts and content about, this is the work we're doing, or this is the workshop that we've run, it doesn't bring as much traction as getting our team members who are doing that work to talk about their experiences, their learnings, them talking about what they're doing, right? So we really encourage at Atma, we really encourage not just leaders of our organizations, but also other team members who are doing great work, to be able to put their work out there on LinkedIn, to talk about it, to put their learnings or experiences or even failures sometimes. And I think that really creates more connections, and it just not just creates more awareness about your organization's work, but even as an individual, right? Tomorrow, if you are looking at future opportunities, I think everyone's LinkedIn profiles are checked when recruitment takes place, and it's really good to be able for someone to understand what is the work that you've done through your posts, and for you to be vocal about your work can really help you in the future with the kind of like opportunities that you receive. Another thing about LinkedIn that's great is LinkedIn engages with long formats. So a lot of the audience there. So if you send on Instagram, if you put a report out there, or you put a long post about your failures or your learnings, you might not gain as much traction, right? But LinkedIn, we've seen through the data, and we sort of analyze each and every post and content that we put it out there, that the longer format reports or stories or infographics or annual reports, which are 30 pages that we put out there, we've seen a great a higher traction of impressions, or a higher engagement rate on LinkedIn. Another thing is networking with people. I think LinkedIn is a great way to slide into people's inboxes and to be able to to be able to connect with certain CSRs and foundations. If you want to, if you are writing a grant for a particular, if you are applying for a particular grant, then it's great to be able to connect with the person at the CSR and foundations. And I think you can identify those people and be able to connect with them via LinkedIn. Another way is using, the paid job postings. You can post your job postings on LinkedIn, and that's also a great way for you to be able to retain and, for you to be able to attract more applications. Another thing is using LinkedIn ads, right? So boosting certain keywords or paying for boosting your certain content, or your, for example, if you're running a campaign for crowdfunding, then you could be, boost that ad by paying for those keywords, or boosting that ad per day by paying a certain charge and have a higher traction. Another thing is you can collaborate with influencers and partners, right? As I said with ConnectFor, that we've been able to leverage some key partnerships in terms of outreach on LinkedIn to be able to attract certain audiences, and that's been great in terms of to have higher visibility for the content that we're putting out there. Another way is engaging in conversations. So sorry, there's maybe an error in the spelling. I apologize for that. Okay. Another thing is collaborating with influencers and partners. Engaging in conversations. I think LinkedIn, there is space for a lot of conversations happening. So if you see that, sometimes people put their failures, their learnings as posts on LinkedIn, and a lot of the audience and people in the organization, in the sector, share their own experiences, or sometimes someone writes about their failure of like working on a particular project, and you see a lot of engagement on these kind of posts where people put in their learnings and key practices. And I think it's a great way to engage with other sector intermediaries and just other leaders and people in the sector. Another important thing that I would, encourage everyone in the audience to look for is, LinkedIn for Nonprofits. It's a program that's newly been started by LinkedIn. It sort of helps you. It's, there are a number of features that it does. It sort of has a learning space where there are a number of courses that, your team members can sort of take up those courses and learn more about, just different courses and trainings. It also gives you a certain ad grant on LinkedIn on, certain boosted posts that you would like to do, or it sort of helps you with like job postings and like, or candidate searching. It also sort of helps you identify more funders, more opportunities in terms of like also finding volunteers. So I encourage everyone to look into the LinkedIn nonprofit program to be able to learn more how they can leverage this platform specifically for nonprofits. Okay, moving on. I'm sorry if this is a little heavy, but moving on to Google AdWords. I think everyone in the audience might know a little bit about Google AdWords, but if you don't, then just to understand a little bit about what Google AdWords does. So Google AdWords is search engine. Okay, great. Okay, so Google AdWords. So when you search for something on Google, right? For example, I'm going to give you an example of I'm looking for NGOs that work in women empowerment. And in my Google search engine, I put in, can I put in NGOs for, for women empowerment in Mumbai? A number of organizations show up in your search engine. So what happens is that the search engine optimization, which is a more organic form of being able to showcase the visibility of your organization, like your online presence on, sorry, I'm just going to take a moment. Sorry, I went too fast. So sorry. So just explaining what search engine optimization is. Search engine optimization is your online presence visibility in a more organic form on these websites. Whereas search engine marketing uses Google Adwords to be able to showcase your website or your online presence at a higher sorry, can I just take a water break for a second and come back?
Yes, absolutely, Rima,
Give me a
not an
second.
issue. Yeah. Okay, so meantime, by the time our speaker come back, I just want to understand from the participants that are you understanding the concept? Did you feel that this is something absolutely was missing at your organization level? If you feel that you want to write something or you would like to share something, please feel free to share till the time our speaker comes.
So, Aishwarya, I have some questions regarding the marketing strategy which she asked. First of all, I want to know, is it for NGOs or for all the products and services?
This is for non-profits only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually,
Okay.
can I ask you?
I'm so sorry to cut you, but Reva is back, so we will continue with the session and we will take your question at the end. Yeah, I hope that's okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Reva, please, you can go ahead.
Sorry about that. I think I just spoke too fast and sort of lost my energy. Okay, I'm going to quickly take you through what Google AdWords is, and I'll start from the beginning because I think I made it a bit confusing. So in terms of Google AdWords, just to explain you, so when you sort of search for a particular thing on the Google search engine, right? So for example, I'm looking for NGOs that work in women empowerment. A number of searches come on your search engine. For example, it gives you another number of recommendations, and that might vary from people to people according to their past search histories. Now, what happens with and I'll explain you the difference between search engine optimization and search engine marketing. So search engine optimization is basically all the search history that's been there in the past of your website, the keywords that you've used in your content of the website. Google tries to connect those keywords on your website directly to the search of what the person has searched, right? So the search is NGOs in Mumbai that work in women empowerment. If any of these words are there in your content on your website, it'll directly make that connection and showcase your website as one of the searches on the Google search. Now, what happens is that this is a very organic way of building that search. So sometimes your website is very new. So, the search engine is not very optimized to be able to find those words from your website and showcase them as a search on the Google search, right? So that's when we use search engine marketing, that is SEM, and that's what Google AdWords is about. Now, just to give you a little more information, Google especially has a Google Ad grant for nonprofits. So you have to be applying eligible. There are a number of eligible criteria, but I'm sure you can look up online to find those criteria. But nonprofits generally get a grant of $10,000 per month to be able to boost the keywords, right? Inorganically on the search engine to be able to bring your website on a higher search. So usually I'm sure you'll have noticed that when you search for example, an NGO in Mumbai working for women's empowerment, you'll see the top three searches there is an ad behind it. There is an AD on the search engine. That ad I'm sorry, Divya, can you please show live Google AdWord example? What I could do, Divya, and I'm sort of short of time. If you want, I can take a longer session on Google AdWords. It's a little more complex than this, but I'll just sort of take you more into brief of this. And then if there is a need to explain this, then we can have another session to be able to take you through the whole thing. So in terms of coming back to Google Ad, I'm sorry about that, Divya. So in terms of Google AdWords, if you see, whenever do a Google search of anything, you will see the first three searches are AD searches, which is basically that an organization or a website has paid for their organization to be on the top of the search engine. So this is what Google AdWords does. It's you specifically pay for key AdWords and optimize the key AdWords that are relevant to your organization's work to be able to have you at a higher level on the search engine. So what does Google, how can you benefit with Google AdWords, right? Google AdWords increases visibility. Now, the minute your website is on the top three searches, it increases visibility and can lead to higher number of clicks and visits to your website, because that's the first thing what the audience is seeing. Usually people don't have the patience to go through like the 10 pages Google search pages to be able to see identify and find the right website. So the first 3, 4, 5 websites is something people usually click on. So it brings more visibility to your organization by helping the individual access your website easily. The second thing is targeted advertising. Now, to give you an example, Atma uses Google AdWords and optimizes keywords such as volunteers, skilled volunteers, to be able to attract highly skilled volunteers to our volunteering program. And I can assure you that with our Google AdWords, we get about 3,000 to 4,000 applications each year on our website, just with Google AdWords, because it brings, if someone Googles volunteering in Mumbai or volunteering in India or volunteering for an NGO, Atma will showcase in the first few search options, and hence it brings a more targeted audience, right? And so if we are looking for skilled volunteers in a particular demographic, in a particular location, in a particular age scale, then it attracts it attracts that kind of audiences to our website, and so it's very, very targeted. Another thing positive about Google AdWords is real-time performance tracking. Now, because it has a very good analytics reporting that it gives you, you can clearly understand which keywords are doing well, which keywords are not performing, how many clicks have you received on your website, or how much of traction have you received on your website with Google AdWords. I'm sure if you all have running websites, you all have access to Google Analytics, and Google Analytics clearly calls out how many people searched the name of your website and came on your website, or how many people came on your website through ads, or how many people came on your website through social media. So I think Google it gives you great analysis and data to be able to optimize your keywords and put in the right campaigns or keywords to be able to attract the right audience. Another thing is complementary to organic search results. So as I explained you, that search engine optimization, which is an organic way of bringing audience to your website, can sort of take time, because if your website is new, it takes time for your website to build a search history. And if your website hasn't had so many it hasn't had as much traction, or it hasn't had as much as audience visiting it, Google might not show it as one of the most optimized websites on there, and might not show it really high on the search engine. So the AdWords helps increase the number of visits on your website, and and in turn helps improve your search engine optimization also, because it brings more traction to your website. Another thing is agility in running campaigns, right? So just to give you an example, Atma was running a campaign specifically to attract fellows for our fellowship program. So we ran very, very specific time-bound campaigns, and put in keywords such as fellowship, fellowship in India, fellowship for young leaders, fellowship for nonprofits. So whoever Googled these keywords in the search engine, Atma's website and our program was very much visible to that particular audience, and hence it brought more traction to the website due to this. So I would say that all of you here, if you all are nonprofits, make sure you'll apply for the Google AdWords grant, because it has a number of benefits in a way that y'all can bring more traction to your website. Great. Okay, moving forward. I think this is the most lighthearted and the most it's the easy part of our workshop today. We're going to play a small game. I wanted to understand from you which content. I'm going to show you a couple of images. So, image 1 and image 2. And I want you to be able to tell me in the chat which content had a higher amount of engagement. Now, just to explain you what I mean by higher amount of engagement, I think some of you all might already know that engagement is when you put a piece of content on any of your social platforms. If for example, if you put a content of a webinar, right, the amount of clicks that you receive on the webinar registration link is the engagement percentage on your is the engagement rate, right? So for example, if you showcased a report and the amount of clicks to read your report is the engagement rate of what of your content. So Aishwarya, can I request you to move to the next slide? So we'll play a little bit of a game. There is an image 1 and image 2. Look at both the images, look at the content that's on these images, and can you tell me, both are for the same program, can you tell me out of image 1 and 2 which had a higher engagement rate? Okay. Wow, okay, that seems like an easy one. Great, okay. Thank you. I think most responses are okay. We were getting a few mixed responses. So image 1 actually had a 27% engagement rate versus image 2, which had a 3.7% engagement rate. Now, just to explain you is the way we are communicating, right? How spaced out is our content? Is there too much content that we're putting out in one image? Because if you see the second image, there is a lot going on in the second image, whereas image 1 is very spaced out. You can clearly read what it's telling you. It's telling you it's the last call for NGOs. It's compelling you. It's giving you a little bit of a deadline to take action quickly. It's clearly calling out, and very, very clearly calling out the 4 things that you're going to get through this program by applying for this program. So, and also image 1 has a carousel. So of course you can't see the carousel, but there are a number of slides that showcase all that the program is offering you, whereas image 2 showcases all the information in the first image, which is not very compelling. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Yes. Okay, can you tell me out of image 3 and 4, which has a higher engagement rate? Okay, great. So I think most of you are wrong. Image 3 had a 5.7% engagement rate, while image 4 had 28.3% engagement rate. Now, as we were talking a little bit about creating very compelling content and creating content in a way that gives insights and your audience gets to learn something from, right? So the first image that you see informs you about a particular webinar that's happening and gives you very basic details about the webinar, right? Which is the time, the topic, the speakers, all of that. Now, image 4 is actually compelling you on why you need to attend this webinar. So again, there is a carousel image and the post body has information about, more information about the webinar topic and the speakers and, the date and all the other information. But the image is compelling you to, and it's sort of like convincing you why you need to have a vision for the organization. The minute you're convinced that you need to have a vision for your organization is when it tells you that here it is, you can learn how to create a vision by attending this webinar. So I think this is the thing, right? When we're putting content out there, we want to be able to have a learning factor where are we teaching the audience something, right? Is there something that, is there an insight? Is there a learning? Is there a little piece of thought leadership that we're doing with our post? Are we convincing them enough to be able to read the post or engage with our post? Great. Okay. Moving to the next slide. Okay. So image 5 and 6. Now, 6 is a carousel image and 5 is a very simple image calling for volunteer applications. Can I please have your vote on which has a higher engagement? Just for your information, image 6 is a carousel image. So it calls out 5 compelling reasons why you need to volunteer. I just showed you the first image. Great. Okay. Okay. So I think we have mixed answers here. The answer is that image 5 had a 3.8% engagement rate, while as image 6 had a 41% engagement rate. Why is it so? Again, image 6 is convincing you to volunteer, is telling you why you should be volunteering. And image 5 is just telling you about this opening that's there, right? It's not convincing you. It's very, very clearly calling out these important elements of like, what is the role looking like? It's just, it's not compelling enough. It's not convincing you in any way. Whereas image 6 in the post body, it has all the information about like what volunteers they are looking for. It has everything, but what image 6 is doing is it's convincing you. And that's what we need to do, is that we need to convince our audience to be able to engage with our content. So you have to always keep that in mind while creating content. Aishwarya, can I request you to move to the last slide, please? Great. So just doing a quick recap of like, I'm sure you'll already learned through the images of like what you should do and what you shouldn't do. But just quick 5 pointers is keep it very short and crisp. Don't make the content very, very busy, because the minute you see a lot of words, you're not going to want to read it. So if there are just a few words and just a few sentences, someone would want to actually spend 1 or 2 minutes to read the content. But if it's too jarring, right, there's too much content, a person wouldn't even give it a second to read it. Another thing is that Instagram LinkedIn both have carousel options, right? Even Facebook does. Make use of that. Spread your content to a few to a few slides. So if you saw 5 reasons to volunteer, right, that image would attract me to go through all those 5 slides and read one line each on why I need to volunteer. So make sure that all those 5 points are not in one image and that you're using the carousel option. The third thing is make sure there is a learning and insight. Now, when you're putting a content piece out there, and this is to a lot of NGOs, right? And I've seen this happen very often, is that when you do a particular workshop or you run a particular program, you put a few images of the workshop um, or the program and say, write a post body of like the work that you've done, right? People don't want to know, your audience doesn't want to know what you're doing. It wants to know what has your learning been through this program that you've run. What were the 5 insights or 5 learnings or 5 reflections that you had after running this program? People want to learn, right? So make sure that there is an insight or a learning in anything that you put out there. Make it compelling. So with all the posts that you saw, I think one thing that stood out is that we are making it very compelling for the audience to be attracted to read more about it. And the last point is test several formats. I think we have over the years tested so many formats, and I still test, week on week, I test different formats and check the engagement rate, check the impressions to see, oh, this is working, this is not working, and make sure that you're continuously improving your content according to the formats that are working and let go of the formats that don't really work and keep experimenting. Great. I hope all of this has been very insightful. I know this has been a lot to cover in a very short amount of time, but thank you so much for, just giving me that time to go through all this content, and I'm happy to go through some of the questions.
Okay, lovely. Thank you so much, Riva, for covering a lot of areas about marketing. And I think that is something, it was a good learning for the nonprofits as well. So we really like to thank you for covering the major areas of marketing. Going forward, we can go ahead with the questions. I would like to ask Swapna to go ahead with your first question.
Hi, Riva. Thank you for the engaging session. I have 2 questions. Am I audible enough?
Yeah. Yes, you are.
Yeah. So my first question is to do with search engine optimization. I work for an NGO that works in the area of visual disability, and we're located in Delhi, right? And probably the search keyword that most people might use is blind school in Delhi. And somehow over the years, we've just known to be the blind school, when in fact the name of the organization is Blind Relief Association. And school is just one of the many units that we run. We also run a college, a vocational training center, computer training center. So we are trying to remove this term called blind school so much from our vocabulary and among our donors and people who know us. But if that is going to be the keyword in which people are going to look for it, and we're not interested in promoting the organization as just a blind school, how do we work around with keywords? That's my first question. Should I go on to the next, or can I hear from you on that?
So I have actually one question for you, Swapna, is that, sure. Of course, so when we talk about these keywords for search engine optimization, right, it's just to bring the audience to your website. Then, of course, people, like, for example, one of the keywords that is there on our organization is education NGO. But that's one of our keywords when we do a search engine search. But the minute we get on our website, you realize that we actually don't have an education program ourselves. We do capacity building for education NGOs, right? But sure. It brings the audience to our website, and that is what our aim is. What you need to see, Swapna, is that is there a higher bounce rate on your website, on your analytics? Are people visiting your website and realizing that that was not an accurate search and leaving the website? Or is that keyword working for you? Are people staying on and reading and going into other pages of your website? Or is there a higher bounce rate where people recognize that this is not what they were searching for and leave the website?
So if we are not getting into search engine marketing, but we are completely relying on some kind of organic SEO, in that case, the content that we use on the website, is it fine if we, just stick to the terms that we like to promote, or should we just go by what has worked for us in case blind school is something that works for us?
I would say that you should change your keyword. Because at the end of the day, that is your content, right? And it's the content on your website. I think if you were doing search engine marketing, I would have said have both the words. But if it's search engine optimization, then it's literally what keywords are in your content. And
that's right.
What is relevant to your program is what should be on your content. So I would say with what's on your website should be exactly the words that are for your program. The minute you venture into SEM, make sure both the words are there.
Sure. Thank you, Riva. Just one more question. Yes, it does help. Thank you so much. I have one more question. So while you're checking the impression rate and engagement rate, how often do you do that? Or even if you're checking Google Analytics to see how your website is performing, how much time and effort should go into it really?
Okay, so in terms of social media, I check analytics on each post and it's very quick, right? Like it's on your phone. You can quickly just, you posted something today, maybe in 24 hours, you just quickly check how it's doing, right? And because you're generating so much content week on week, you can't afford to wait for a month to analyze what's working, what's not working. I think social media is fairly quick. If there's one piece of content that's working for you, one format that's working for you, you make that quick change. And I think you should learn from each post. So I do it daily. And it's not too much work. I'm quite excited to see how different formats are working for me. So it's a very fun thing for me to do. Whereas analytics of the website, I do quarterly because I think, because I manage the Google Adwords for Atma, going into Google Adwords, changing the keywords, optimizing them, resyncing the words to work, AdWords that are working, putting negative keywords, just making all that change. I don't get as much time. So I do it on a quarterly basis, and it's a good amount of time to get insights, right? You're accumulating insights over 3 months and then changing your keywords, changing, the words on Google AdWords. It's much better and time efficient. But with social media, I do it literally every day, and it's fun for me.
Sure. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Riva. That was very helpful.
Thank you, Swapna. I hope that was.
Thank you so much, Riva, for answering this question. I think this helped many other organizations as well. Moving to the next question, we have, I'm sorry, but you haven't renamed, so it's showing 814644 for me. Oh. You can go ahead with your question. I think you had put it in the chat box as well, that there is always a task to meet the right person. Can you please elaborate more on that? Okay, I think we can go ahead with the next question. Do you have any question, any participants which you would like to ask Riva? Yes, Harshit, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone, this is Harshit. So I run a non-profit organization, Women Right. So I wanted to know more about Google AdWords. So like we have also taken part in the Google AdWords, like the challenge that is there every year. So, but I think FCRA is mandatory when it comes to Google for non-profits. So any other option apart from that, like Google AdWords, it's like you put in your budget, to make the ads and everything. But if you have the grant, like, you can take help from that. So without FCRA, any other option, like any other possibility, or FCRA is the only thing?
I mean, I think I haven't checked, Harshit, the rules in a bit, and I think you might know more because we got our AdWords, I think, almost 6-7 years ago, to be honest. So, maybe things have changed, but I would say for a nonprofit, the ad grant is the most, it's the most practical. Spending money on Google AdWords, apart from a grant, is not possible. We get about, and I'll just give you an example. We get about a traction of 26,000 to 30,000 a quarter visits on our website, and we use about 9,500 of the dollars of our grant each month, because you have a $10,000 grant a month. So I would say like $30,000, right? We use about $28,000 to $27,000 to be able to bring that much traction to our website. Of course, we have a lot of like organic visits coming in and social media visits come in, but most of our visits that come in are through the Google Ad grants. So just to tell you the kind of like amount that we spend, it wouldn't have been possible without the Google Ad grant. So I wouldn't suggest spending any money as a nonprofit without having the grant. So I'm sorry if FCRA is one of the ways to do.
And another question, if I can ask, like if the time allows. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So another thing, like I wanted to ask regarding LinkedIn for nonprofits. Like it's been like 2-3 times I have checked, but I couldn't find anything meaningful out of it. Maybe because like we have already the page and everything, we are posting it regularly and everything. So is there any specific thing that that might have helped you, or like you have seen in some different organization, this specific, the whole program of LinkedIn for nonprofit? Like if you can highlight more about that.
So I've also looked a little bit into it, and I've tried a few things, Harshit, and very recently I have. So I don't have a few months of experience to talk about. But what I would say is that it's very generic, the program and the offerings that they have. It's not very different than what LinkedIn offers otherwise. But I think the Learning Center is great in terms of like, I've done some of the trainings and workshops to be able to, and we also do a lot of capacity building in our organization. So it's been a good learning. A lot of the workshops and resources that they have been great for our team and staff to have access to learn from, like just for your team members to have more access to this. But otherwise, we use a lot of those personal connects. There is another thing that LinkedIn does, is that each month it gives you a certain credit of invites that you can invite people to your page from the list of connections that you have. So make sure you're doing all those kind of things. We sort of leverage those things more than the nonprofit offerings that LinkedIn gives.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Reva. I think considering the time, we would like to end our webinar right now, but I have shared the feedback form with you all. Please fill the feedback form, so this will help us plan our future webinars. Also, if there is any particular question that you would like to ask Reva, please put it in the feedback form and we can like go back to Reva and she can revert on those questions. But yes, thank you so much all the participants, and thank you so much Reva for coming today and sharing wonderful insights on marketing. And thank you all the participants for joining for today's webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you, Reva, once again. It was a great webinar.
Thank you, Aishwarya, and thank you everyone for being patient through all the...
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.